We're about 5 minutes over my speaking time, but everybody can unmute and ask questions now.
It's okay that you went over. It was a very interesting presentation. Let me welcome Rebecca and Perline, who joined after we started, after you started your presentation.
We're going to give this talk to electronic to Tina. I sent it to her this morning, so it will be available not just in this video form, but you'll have all the content as well.
I did. Do you want me to post it to our website?
Sure.
Okay, I can do that. I'll post it to our website and make it available to whoever wants to go back and read it. Okay, for the question and answer.
I see the hand, Gina. Is it Gina or Jenna?
Wait, hold on just a second, Gina.
Okay.
Okay, if you have your audio off, you can still, your video off. We can't see you, Bruce can't see you. We don't know you have a question, but you can use the chat feature at the bottom of, pull up your menu and you'll see chat. Just write your question in there, and when Bruce sees it, and you can answer it. And for the rest that we can see you, you want to raise your hand, let Bruce call on you, that'll be fine. All right, go ahead, Jenna.
Okay, my question is, say I decide to publish, I don't know, hybrid, the book I'm working on, change to a different genre or a different type of writing. Do I have to stay hybrid, or can I space it out? And, I don't want to get into any legalities is my point,
Sure.
I guess.
Is the book that you're going to revise, or the new book, how close is it to the content of the first book that's already contracted?
There is none. I'm still working on the first.
Okay, good. Because
I'm new at this.
Okay, most of your hybrid houses will be very flexible with you doing a spin-off of the first of your original work. It's best, though, to talk about it on the front end so that there's no secrets and there's no surprises. On the traditional side, what we would do with that, and we do this all the time, is your literary agent would include this other idea in the proposal for the first idea. And sometimes a publisher, which we did with Karen Ann, actually, one of her, they'll contract for both books, what we call a two-book deal. So a traditional can do that. It's going to be included in your proposal, and a hybrid will be open to you doing that, but best to let them know what you're up to.
Well, I guess my final point is that I don't know if I'll ever publish again. This is something God put on my heart. I've been working on, but I don't want to box myself in, basically, in case I want to do, say, a children's book later or a book of poems.
Yeah, you're not, when you do a book contract, you're not limiting yourself to doing either just that genre or working with that publisher. Okay. My literary agency is a good example. I don't do children's books.
Okay.
So if I have a client that I'm doing author-driven books that are nonfiction, that I would do those. A children's agent would pick up the others. Karen has several genres that she works in, and it's not a problem. The key is making sure that whoever you're talking with at the publisher knows what your hopes and plans are.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And where in Alabama do y'all live?
We're in Nashville, actually.
Oh, Nashville. Okay, I heard you say Alabama. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, we were doing a writers conference. That's where I met Tina, in Tuscaloosa.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Hello, Rebecca. Oh, Rebecca's got her muted now.
She's muted. I'm sure she can hear you, but I think Rebecca just likes to sit and listen.
Gotcha.
That's fine. Anybody else have a question?
I have one.
Yep. Your name is Dennis.
Dennis, yes. How do you get an agent?
Great question.
Thank you.
You'll see, which I've also sent to Tina, a proposal template. And if you go to my website, which is literarymanagementgroup.com, which we'll also have a link to on Tina's site, there's a proposal template, which is a menu-driven document that will be the resource you need to provide an overview of the book, which you then send to the literary agent. And on my website, I explain the whole process.
Oh,
But in
thank you.
essence, what you're doing, this is really important.
Mhm.
When you're talking to a literary agent, and when a literary agent is talking to a publisher, they need to know not just what the book is, they're more interested in what the book does. Now we're talking nonfiction. So if it's a nonfiction title, what they want to know is, what's the premise? What are the features, advantages, and benefits? How is it going to change the reader's world in some way? Life, mind, thinking, whatever. And that is what this proposal will do. I'll also, Tina, I'll send you the fiction template, which is different because obviously fiction is reviewed differently. But the proposal format that you'll get is the way you get an agent. And you go to a website. If it's a faith-based book, the best one is michaelhyatt.com. I'll shoot that over to Tina as well. And they have a great list of very reputable agents who specialize in faith-based content, Christian authors and books.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Of course, Bruce being one of the best. I just want to say that.
little
And what was
Yeah.
your website again?
literarymanagementgroup.com.
Thank you.
I live in
Literary.
Alabama. I'll come up and visit you. I don't live far.
Good. We get down to Birmingham once in a while. The column that I mentioned Karen is going to write, she's writing it for the Alabama Baptist.
Oh, really? I live just north of Wetumpka. I mean, Montgomery.
Okay. Well, this is a good example. The Alabama Baptist
Yeah.
is a weekly publication
Right.
with 85,000 paid subscribers that is bulk distributed to 3,500 Baptist churches in Alabama.
Wow.
And Karen will have initially an 8-week column that's the subject of this book brand that she is launching. So we're going to be linking our publication strategies and being used by the Alabama Baptist to get that word out.
That's good.
And we wouldn't have even thought of doing a column. Have you ever done a column? No. So
Any other questions? Dixon?
Yep.
Yes, I wasn't aware of the possibility of the hybrid publisher. What would be a good way to find out more or contact such people?
I'll put the list of the top 3 in a note to Tina, and then whether you're dealing with the michaelhyatt.com, I know all those agents. So you go to their website, you see which one seems to fit with what you're writing, and you can always use my name as a referral. And the same with the hybrid agents, because all these guys, hybrid publishers, because all these guys are really good friends of mine.
Cool.
Okay.
The biggest mistake you can make is to try to do this with trial and error. Because you will spend money that you never believed you would spend, and you'll get nothing.
Mhm.
Is that on the hybrid?
That's on, if you work with the wrong person, that's on all of them.
Yeah.
Both hybrid and self-publishing. Again, you don't have to pay a publisher, so that's not the problem. But these authors, these companies that call themselves book publishers, here's a good way to follow it. If you have to pay anything, then they're not a traditional publisher. No matter what they tell you, no matter what a great story they talk about, all the traditional publishers, and this, you got me going now, all the traditional publishers, I get 25 pitches a day, new books a day, and I turn down 24. Publishers get hundreds of pitches. And they figured years ago that instead of just saying no to those people, they would introduce those people to another kind of publishing they'd be happy to do for those books they just told them they can't publish. And they opened up self-publishing divisions that are masked as a division of, for example, Thomas Nelson.
Yeah, I was thinking that. Yeah.
It's called Westbow. They'll tell you that it's Thomas Nelson. They'll tell you that it's reviewed by Thomas Nelson editors. They'll tell you it's sold by Thomas Nelson people.
But it's
I'm telling you, the offices are in Indianapolis. The editors are not Christian. Thomas Nelson never sees the book. All they do is get 30% of what you pay this other company. It's a ripoff.
Yeah.
And your average price to do these things is around $3,500, and you'll end up with an ebook file, and that's it.
It's
Just
better.
Just so you know, Bruce isn't talking out of school here. I just want to comment that he actually wrote to the president of Nelson and to the Westbo people and asked them to please clarify that they were not indeed Thomas Nelson when people signed up with Westbo, because we would go to conferences and hear people tell us one sad story after another of, oh, I paid $8,000, $15,000, I paid all this money, I have no books, I have, you know, it wasn't done well, it was terrible. They told me they would get it into Publishers Weekly and on Amazon and all these things. Well, they can, but everybody can do that, and it doesn't even cost anything. And so there's all this stuff that we start feeling badly about, and for a long time, honestly, I just didn't want to be part of anything self-published because there were so many upstarts out there calling themselves self-publishers, but they were not people of experience. They were not people who even knew anything except how to market, and get your money. And that had nothing to do with selling books. So we are coming back around to some that now are actually, I think, honorable, and that will give it a better spin to me. But be looking for honorable ones, I'm telling you, because you can get lost in those that are not.
I'm happy to comment and to give you my 2 bits on any pitch you're getting from any of these guys. Relentless.
I have my own formatter that I use and my own cover designer. Like he was saying, they give me a good price. And she used to work for a traditional company.
Yep, good.
So
that's if a person, an editor, we see this all the time. Oh, I had, the book is edited. Really? Who edited it?
Yeah.
Well, my sister, she teaches English.
Yeah.
I said, oh, really? Has she ever edited a book? Well, not really.
Dr. Hensley's edited some of my books. So.
See, if you've got people that do it, then you're going to get a good edit.
Yeah.
But if you've got somebody who's a relative, you know, you may not want them replacing your roof any more than you want them replacing your
pay people. Yeah.
By the way, that the company that services Westbo is a company called Author House. They also own Ex Libris and iUniverse, and they do about 50,000 contracts a year. They average about $3,800 a contract, and 98% of the corporate revenue comes from author sales, author services. They don't sell any books. 80% of their revenue comes from charging you ridiculous prices for editing and design. And they make all their money on what you pay them, not on how many books you sell.
Call those people vanity publishers.
They used to call them vanity publishers, right? Yeah. But now they realize there's a lot of money in it, so they're representing them.
Not paying anymore, huh?
Yeah, yeah. They're looking at how much money they can make.
Yeah.
You know, the main thing is just to protect yourself. You know, be wise about what you choose, because so much of the time I think writers are so excited about their idea and they're so hoping to get it published in some form that they don't listen to what these kinds of companies are really saying when they pitch to you. So just be careful, pray about it, check their credentials, check other people that have used them, and find out what they said before you sign on the line and spend your 10 grand.
And talk to somebody who knows about publishing. That's the key.
Always use a good editor, like you were saying.
always.
If you got a great idea and you worked hard on the manuscript, then you owe it to yourself to get a good edit.
Right.
No matter how well no matter, and Karen has a good saying. Everybody who read my manuscript loves it. And Karen says, well, other than your mom, who's you showed it to?
Right. Yeah.
And editing is part of the publishing process. Karen loves her edits. Not necessarily her editors, but she loves her edits.
I did a book a couple years ago called What a Great Word, and it was a daily devotional. And it was my first time with a big New York house to do it in Hachette. And I was uncertain because the editors weren't Christians, right? So I'm thinking, oh my, how are they going to interpret what I've done? And it was so beautiful. It was so interesting because what I discovered is these editors were like, well, how do you know this is okay to say? Or is this what Christians would really say? Or, well, do you really believe that? And so it turned out to be such an amazing experience for me. And they had a good eye for things that I would miss simply because I thought I had already said something. They would go, but I don't get it. And if they didn't get it, it wasn't working right. So
yeah, a good editor. I'm an editor by trade.
Chris is a great editor.
I can edit any content because it's not about the content. It's about the communication of the idea. And I can tell you that just doesn't make sense to me. It just plain doesn't make sense. Or you said this in one place and this over here. So how do you square that circle? So I've edited thousands of books, but very few of them were books I would actually buy or read because it's not my, it wouldn't be my interest area. But that doesn't mean I can't edit it.
Right.
I get a lot of that from my editor.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me.
There you go. You got somebody who knows what they're doing.
Actually, I bought Karen's book and I gave it to Jenna so she could study the structure of how you put devotion together.
Oh, that's a great book.
Yeah,
I agree.
Tell the story about the title because that's another great story.
Strength for Your Soul started out as a book called Take Heart. And I really liked the title. I gave it the title. And when we were finished with the book, the publisher came back and said, we've been looking at our list and we have a few too many books that are going to come out with the word heart in them. So could you give us another title? So I was like, well, the book is done. I've used Take Heart a few times. So anyway, I went back and just did some brainstorming and, prayer, because I always have to add a little prayer in my work here, and came up with Strength for Your Soul. And I actually loved it even more than my original title. And I went back in the book, edited just a few pages where I could put Strength for Your Soul back in the content. And I think it came out well. And that is the first time that publisher came out with a book both in a hardback and a leather version at the same time. Usually they wait and do a leather after they see how it will sell. But that one, they went ahead. So.
Well, I find that, I'm doing a devotion.
Okay.
And I've been told that when I use the form of you, that I can be very judgmental at times and things, but yours, you get the point across without it being offensive. And that's what I'm working on.
Well, thank you. I work a lot on my voice. I really want readers to know that I'm right in here with you. I'm learning just like you're learning. And I'm still reading one of the devotionals I wrote 10 years ago. Right now I'm reading it again in the mornings. And I go, wow, I needed that today. Because, I write what I need to hear. I write what I need to experience. So, and I'm hoping that other readers are out there who need that same.
And that's exactly what I'm doing.
Good for you.
Tina has my website if y'all are interested later.
Great.
Okay.
I would love from, any feedback that I could get. The working title is A Psalm a Day Will Keep the Devil Away. I don't know. That's just what God gave me at first. So they're all in the book of Psalms.
Okay, well, we'd be happy to chat about it a little if you need any help, but you've got Tina, so that's
Okay,
good.
thank you.
Any other questions? I have one if there's not. Okay. You mentioned about how the demise of the bookstore has affected publishers. And I had never really thought of it in that context that you presented it. I know in New Orleans, I think the Gospel Bookstore is the last man standing right now, especially when Lifeway closed its doors. I think that pretty much left him. There's Bill's store, and then I think there might be a couple of Catholic stores. If they're even still open now, I don't even know. But what do you foresee in the future for publishing? Do you think where publishers are really just going to become printers and the traditional thing is going to go away, or how do you see the future?
One of the interesting things is that historically, books have been, when the economy goes south, books typically pick up in sales. And we're seeing that right now. March and April were stronger in unit sales this year than last year. Stronger in unit sales this year than last year. Not just price, not just volume, because of course if you raise the retail price, you sell fewer copies. You know, your book sales are going down even though your revenue's going up. Unit sales are bigger in March and April than they were last year. People, and of course, once we're all locked up, but people always tend to go to books as a very inexpensive form of entertainment or education. I mean, what can you do for $20 these days? Well, you can spend 3 hours with a great book. So to Tina's question, couple things. You're going to see some really great independent bookstores open up here in the next year or so. Well-funded, strong in the community, independent bookstores, because the demand and the interest of book buyers is not going down. They're still there. It's not as big a percent of the population as we'd like. About 10% of the American population will buy and read 2 books this year, 2 or more. A frequent book buyer, which is the sweetheart for every bookstore, will buy 4 books this year. That's like the biggie.
Wow.
So there's an opportunity for independent bookstores, whether Christian or general interest. Rents are going to be going down because people are closing, and the interest of books is going to be going up. Amazon will continue in that 50 or 60% range, which is actually fairly economical for a publisher because they don't buy books returnable. Once they sell them, they go in and they're done. The other thing you're going to see, Tina, and the crowd, is that publishers are going to start selling more direct. They want to compete with Amazon and sell direct to the readers. Publishers have never wanted to do that. For one reason, they didn't want to make their retailer partners mad at them. But now that the retail partners are not on the block anymore, they don't have that sensitivity. But the other reason is, and Bennett Cerf is a great example. Bennett Cerf started Random House. And the reason he called it Random House was that he wanted to publish books at random. He wanted to publish all kinds of books. He didn't want his company to be known as a single topic or a few topic publisher. So he published books at random. So publishers, and this my dad told me this years ago, we don't want people to know. The only people we want to know about Fleming Revell Publishing are authors, because of our credibility and our editorial and our marketing and sales strength, and retailers who can count on our books being really well written, really well edited, and really well marketed. But we don't want Jenna or Rebecca or Dennis to think a publisher as the first point of why they like that book. If you like Charles Stanley, we want you to buy a Charles Stanley book. But you know what? If I published Benny Hinn, and you were thinking that Revell is a Benny Hinn kind of publisher, then, and you don't like Benny Hinn, then you might not like the Charles Stanley book. I just published it. You follow me? So publishers have not wanted their brand to be a consumer consideration, unless they were a platform publisher like Nav Press is the Navigators Ministry, Ivy Press is the InterVarsity Ministry. In other words, if they're a mission kind of a press, then obviously you need to have that identity. If you are a theologically aligned kind of press, like Moody, for example, you know, conservative fundamentalists, okay, then you know Moody. But the general interest publishers want to keep a general interest. They want you to make your decision on the author. Well, that flies directly in the face all these years of you, Jenna, saying, hey, I'm going to go check out what Thomas Nelson is publishing now. You're not going to go to Thomas Nelson to find out, because you don't really care about Thomas Nelson. Again, you care about an author. So to answer your question, Tina, bookstores are going to, independent stores are going to grow. I think that the Barnes & Noble is going to watch its way out, and they're going to be back to being a strong supporter of Christian books. Christian book, well, it used to be called Christian Book Distributors. It was started back in the 80s by a seminary student to sell heavy, expensive reference books to his seminary friends, and he called it Christian Book Distributors, which for 40 years was a great name, until CBD came to mean something else. And he had to stop. He gave up the CBD this year, and he now calls his website christianbook.com, which is a Christian version of Amazon, if you will, an online version. So there'll be people that want to buy books. I've never been more excited about book publishing than I am now. We can get it around the world with Amazon, anywhere. We got all these opportunities. Karen could never talk to her readers until the last 5 or 6 years. She didn't know who was buying her books. She's never heard from them. Now she's got websites, she's got blogs, she's going to do podcasts. So it's an exciting time to be an author, and it's an exciting time to be a publisher and a retailer, though it's, for the time being right now, it's pretty stressful. How'd you like to be John Grisham, whose spring title didn't get shipped, and there are 3 million copies sitting in a warehouse? Wow. That's not good.
Yeah.
But it'll work out. It'll work out. And because you guys are going to keep writing, there's going to be publishers that need content. They got to have, if they don't have books, what are they going to do?
Yeah.
Perlene, you saw you had your hand up. You'd like to ask a question?
Karen, I'd like to get your book about greeting cards. Where can I find that on?
It is on Amazon, or I can sign one and mail it out to you.
Okay. All right.
I'll just sign and mail it one.
You take Cash App?
PayPal or, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll Cash App you. How much is it?
Okay. It's like 17, but how about 10?
Love it.
Benefits of being at the meeting.
Right.
I'll
Okay.
send you one out today. Just send me an email with your address, or have Tina send me your address.
Okay. Fantastic. And I Cash App that to you today.
You know what's a funny one on that one is that when we did part of this proposal that we talked about a moment ago, you have to put competitive titles. In other words, what are some titles in this genre that are similar to your book, that are good selling titles? So you can say, hey, there's a market because these books work. And then what are the differences? Because obviously there has to be a difference, or why buy yours too? When we did that with the greeting card book, which we retitled, the first title was
You Can Write Greeting Cards.
And the second title was?
It's called Write Greeting Cards Like a Pro.
The only book we could come up with that was comparable was Karen's first book. And it sold about 100,000 copies, and the publisher said, so You're the only one that does it. They were pretty happy to get that
It
book.
was pretty amazing because it was a niche book. I was amazed. It was really literally out for 10 years in the bookstores. And so that was a shock to me. But that took me 2 years to learn how to write that book because it was the first one.
If you can't find a comparable book, what do you tell the agent? You can't find a comparable book?
I can guarantee that there's a comparable book to any
Usually.
book you're writing,
Almost
because
always.
Ecclesiastes says there's nothing new under the sun. Here's an important thing to consider. Good question. Good question, Jack. The worst thing you can say to an agent, and the worst thing an agent can say to a publisher, is that there's not a book like mine. And you say, well, why is that bad? Well, my dad used to say, and he was in the business 40 years before I got there, he said, there may be a reason.
It's not a book.
There may be a reason there's not a book like yours. But truthfully, if there's never been a book like yours, then put yourself in the publisher's role, who has to tell his salesman, who's going to go to the buyer in the bookstore, and they're going to say to that buyer in the bookstore, I'm not talking about the customer in the bookstore, I'm talking about the book buyer in the bookstore. Listen, there's never been a book like this. And the bookstore owner is going to say, what? Well, they're going to say, where do I put it? In my store. If there's never been a book like this, I don't have a category for that.
Yeah. Right. There's probably a reason.
Right. But also remember, book selling, if you go even a Barnes and Noble, the chains, they need to know the category, because they have people that come in on a regular basis and they'll say, hey, you know what? I know that you like that book. Here's another one that you're going to like.
Right.
Well, if you tell that bookstore, you know what? There's never been a book like this, which means there's never been anybody that bought a book like this. Well, who do you sell it to?
Right.
So the long answer to your short question, there will be similar books, not necessarily just like yours, because yours is a unique idea.
Yeah.
But there will be similar books. If it's a memoir, no, there's not been a book like yours, because yours is the story of the memoir. But there have been a lot of memoirs that cover the same type of experiences you've had.
Right.
Okay? If you've got a book on prayer, then there's a bunch of books that are similar.
Or devotionals.
Or devotionals. There's a bunch of books that are similar. And the important thing is for you to say to your agent, or to the agent to say to the publisher, and the publisher to say to the sales rep, here are 4 titles that are similar, that are selling like crazy. And here's our new title that is this different. Here's how it's different. So then you've now got a whole different story to tell to the bookstore. Here's the story. We all know that people buy these kind of books. Look, you've got them on your bestseller table.
Yeah.
So there's no question about whether there's an interest in this subject. Now here's why you need to add this one to your store, because presumably the people who like those 4 have already bought them.
Yeah.
And they might be wanting another one like that.
Yeah.
So you see the difference in how important it is to position your book against others that are similar, that are selling. It eliminates the argument of is there a market, but you also have to be able to distinguish it so that your argument can close with, and here's why they need to buy, here's why those people are going to be really good prospects to buy my book too. And that's how you get through to an agent. First thing I look at on the proposal is I look at the premise statement, which is a 2 or 3 sentences, 2 or 3 sentence summary of what's the point of the book. It's the elevator pitch.
Right.
And you've never bought anything in an elevator, but you've heard short descriptions of something that interested you.
Yeah.
The second thing I look at is the biography on the author. What makes you credible to this book? And finally, I look at the, I mean, not finally, but the next thing I look at is the competitive, what we call competitive analysis. So those, and all that's explained on that proposal template that you can get from Tina's website.
Right.
Okay.
I have about 5 minutes before I'm going to jump to another Zoom call with a client. So so if there's any other questions, we can do them now, and Karen and I can. Or if you have questions that you'd like to submit, we'll be happy to give you a holler. Or if you want to ask the question, we'll be happy to answer it. But I do have about 5 minutes.
Okay. Perlene, did you want to ask something else?
No, I'm good.
Oh, okay. All right. You mentioned while we were talking that you have self-publishing services.
Yes.
Okay. Is that on your website, Literary Management, the information?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
What we do is we provide, the only people we work with are professional editors who edit the same people who are editing Thomas Nelson and Broadman Holman and all the rest of them here in Nashville and around the country. Book designers, same way. Cover designers, same way. And in some cases, if people need to buy, they think they need to buy, 1,000 copies, we can work directly with a printer and get a pretty good price. Or, and I recommend this all the time, we can format the book in ebook and also in print on demand at KDP, which is Amazon's self-service system, and that cuts down a lot of money. If you're doing your own book, you don't have to pay for an ISBN if you work with Amazon. If you buy an ISBN, it's going to cost you about $300 because you can buy one or you can buy 10. Wow. It's the same price. So we do a lot of self-publishing with people that have a few $1,000s to spend and don't want to commit to big inventory, and we can turn that around very quickly.
So you pretty much do the whole thing.
Soup to nuts.
Get a cover.
Manuscript, edit, design, cover design, production files, set up the account. Get the whole thing up and running.
Okay. That's
for somewhere between 30 and 50,000 words, the budget's going to be somewhere between $2,500 and $3,500.
Okay, that's good to know. You might hear from me next year.
Yep.
Okay, I know you need to go. You mentioned you have another Zoom call. So
thank you much.
I just want to thank you, and I'll be in touch with you by email later this afternoon.
Great. The other thing,
Nashville.
Well, come on up. We'll be happy to see you. The other thing is we want to come down and visit with you all when we can get back on planes again.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'd love that. We'd love that. In fact, I discussed that several times with my husband. I said, well, I think I could pay to bring Bruce down, but I don't think I could pay to bring both of them down.
Oh, we can make it. We can make the numbers work. But
this is the important one.
Well, she's a smart one. But right now it's obviously difficult and not from an economic standpoint. But we do really want to come down and visit with you all and see the bookstore and we've talked, Tina, before about doing a full writers conference and between the two of us we can cover a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both for helping us out today.
This is great. Have a good afternoon, y'all.
This was
All right.
awesome.
Notes. I took a lot of notes. So.
Good.
I did too.
Okay, see you.
Keep writing.
Okay, bye.
Keep writing is right.
All righty.